Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really tackling a big vision. How can we actually shrink those gaps that divide us?
Yeah, and move towards something like a truly unified world.
Exactly. A world where, it doesn't matter where you're from, what your situation is, everyone gets a real shot at happiness, health, and importantly, freedom from discrimination.
It's a huge goal, but what's interesting is how many different paths seem to lead there, and they're more connected than you might first think.
That's what we found looking at the sources for today. It's a real mix.
Definitely. We've got stuff on the tiny microbes inside us, the huge potential of AI, and even some really deep philosophical ideas about unity.
It might sound like a bit of a leap between topics, but stick with us. We think the connections are pretty powerful, especially for this idea of, well, building a more equitable world.
We're aiming to pull out the key insights, the things that could actually make a difference.
Right. So let's dive in. Where should we start?
How about we start really close to home, like inside our own bodies, with
Right.
our health? One source, book Harnessing the Power Within, gets right into the microbiome, specifically the gut microbiome.
Ah, the gut stuff. It seems like everyone's talking about that lately.
And for good reason. The source really emphasizes how profound its influences on just our general well-being. It's like we're not just individuals, we're these complex ecosystems.
Millions, billions,
Yeah.
trillions of tiny things living inside us.
Trillions. And they're playing a much bigger role than we used to think. It's not just about breaking down food.
Right. The source mentioned it goes way beyond digestion, immunity, metabolism.
Absolutely. But maybe the most surprising part is the impact on mental health, the gut-brain axis.
That connection, yeah.
These bacteria, they actually produce neurochemicals, things like serotonin, dopamine, GABA, the stuff that directly affects our mood, how we behave, even how we handle stress.
So that old saying, gut feeling, it's more literal than we thought.
Kind of. It highlights this deep biological link. And the cool thing the book points out is that we have some influence here. Our choices matter.
Like what we eat.
Exactly. Diet is huge. Fiber, from fruits and veggies, probiotics from fermented foods, prebiotics, which are like food for the good bacteria, polyphenols. They all help build a healthy, diverse microbiome.
And processed foods, not so much.
Generally, yeah, they can tilt the balance the wrong way. But it's not only food. The source also mentions things like stress levels, how well we sleep, exercise. It all feeds into this complex system.
And this knowledge, it's not just interesting, it can be empowering, right? The source talks about Dr. Sri's work.
Yeah, focusing on giving people knowledge about, say, infection symptoms and tools like this MRSA Whisperer idea.
Like an early warning system.
Sort of, yeah. Or the Maya app for tracking infections. The idea is to give individuals and communities more agency over their health.
Which connects directly back to reducing those disparities we mentioned.
Precisely. If you make knowledge about prevention and early signs more accessible, provide tools people can actually use. That starts to level the playing field in healthcare. It's proactive.
Okay, so understanding our own biology, our internal ecosystem, that's one piece of the puzzle for well-being and maybe equality.
A big piece.
Now, let's shift gears a bit. To the digital world, we looked at a source called Illiterate to Literate using AI. That title alone is pretty bold.
It is. And it dives into this idea of AI literacy, why understanding AI is becoming, well, almost a basic need.
Like reading and writing were in the past.
Kind of, yeah. The argument is that knowing the basics of AI opens doors, helps you make better decisions, even affects your economic chances in this, increasingly tech-driven world.
But there's a flip side, isn't there? A danger.
Definitely. The source flags the risk that AI could actually make inequality worse if access to understanding it, to using it effectively, isn't spread widely.
Right, if only some people get the training, the knowledge.
Then you could see those who are already behind falling even further back. It's not just about cool gadgets. It's understanding how algorithms affect the news you see, the jobs you might get, even access to loans or healthcare.
That's a serious concern. But the source also mentioned positive steps.
Yes, thankfully. It points to initiatives trying to bridge that gap, like AI training specifically for underrepresented groups, which leads nicely into another source we looked at.
Words Unbound, Transforming Lives with Dear Maya GP.
Exactly. This one really focuses on how AI can potentially revolutionize education, especially around literacy.
That's so.
It talks about Dr. Maya GPT as an AI tool that offers personalized learning, tailored experiences to help people improve literacy.
Personalized.
Yeah.
Meaning it adapts to the individual.
Right. It can cater to different learning styles, different speeds, even help people with specific challenges like dyslexia. instead of one size fits all.
It builds a path for you. That sounds incredibly powerful, making learning more accessible, more supportive.
It could be transformative, especially for those who've struggled with traditional methods. And there's another angle mentioned too, the Aisha Path initiative.
Oh yeah, what was that?
Using Dr. Maya GPT to deliver personalized health information to working women in Karnataka, women who might be underserved by traditional healthcare. And crucially, delivering it in their own regional languages.
Wow. Okay, so that hits both literacy and health disparities.
Directly, delivering vital info in a way people can understand and access. That's empowerment, regardless of your background or reading ability. It meets people where they are.
So AI isn't just this abstract tech thing. It can be a tool, a really powerful one, for creating more equal access to knowledge, to resources.
When used thoughtfully, absolutely. It ties right back into that mission of reducing disparities.
Okay, so we've got our internal world, the microbiome, and the external digital world with AI. Now let's look at the bigger picture frameworks, philosophical ideas.
Right. We had that source, one world, one family, one law, Abhijit Chirka.
It introduces some really profound concepts, one world, one family, one law, and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Which means the world is one family. Beautiful idea. These concepts, often rooted in philosophies like Sanatana Dharma, they stress universal truths, compassion.
They really push this idea of interconnectedness, don't they? That we're all linked. Our well-being depends on each other and on the planet.
Exactly. The source talks about this one world law, not a legal statute, but a principle. It includes interconnectedness, constant change, harmony, balance, and resonance.
Resonance. What does that mean in this context?
Think of it like shared understanding, alignment. When people or groups share values, share goals, there's a kind of positive vibration, a harmony that connects them.
Okay, I see. So that relates to building unity.
Very much so. It's about finding that resonance, fostering unity within diversity, not making everyone the same, but recognizing the shared humanity underneath, building bridges through dialogue.
And interestingly, this source also brings technology back into it.
Yeah, it suggests things like digital platforms, even AI could help. Facilitate that cross-cultural conversation, boost education, promote a sense of being global citizens.
It even mentioned blockchain, didn't it? For transparency in international agreements.
It did. So it loops back again. Technology, guided by these kinds of unifying ethical principles, can be a tool to break down barriers and fight inequality on a global scale.
Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. Building this more unified, equitable world, there are obstacles, hurdles to overcome.
It's true. Our sources touched on some of those too, like technophobia.
Right, the fear of technology. One source specifically mentioned that this can be a real barrier, especially maybe for older people or just anyone anxious about how fast things are changing.
It's a reminder that just rolling out tech isn't enough. You need support, education, patience, ways to help people feel comfortable and build those digital skills. It's about inclusion, not just access.
And thinking specifically about literacy again, that word's unbound source stressed the need for supportive environments.
Hugely important, especially for anyone with learning disabilities. Things we might take for granted: consistency, a quiet space to focus, encouragement, positive feedback. They make a massive difference.
In the role of family, of the community, helping overcome maybe the shame or psychological barriers that can come with struggling to read.
Absolutely. That support network is critical. And speaking of different approaches, I was really fascinated by the intuitive learning idea from Dr. Kadiyali Srivatsa.
Oh yeah, using colors and symbols.
Exactly. To get vital health information across to people who can't read traditional text. It's incredibly innovative, a completely different way to bridge that knowledge gap. It just shows, doesn't it? We need creative thinking, diverse strategies to make sure essential information and empowerment reach everyone, no matter their literacy level.
So we've journeyed from inside our own gut to the potential of AI and through some really deep philosophical ideas about being connected.
And the common thread seems to be this: tackling those disparities in health, in education, in access is fundamental. It's the groundwork for that one world vision where everyone gets a fair chance to thrive.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is. Our physical health affects our mind, knowledge shapes opportunities, our shared values. They guide how we interact, how we progress as a whole.
It's all linked: health, tech, society, philosophy. They aren't separate silos when you're looking at creating a better, more unified future.
You know, finishing this deep dive, I actually feel pretty hopeful about the potential here. Which brings us to the end, and maybe a thought for you, the listener.
Considering all this interconnectedness we've talked about,
What's maybe one small thing, one single action you could take, maybe even today, to contribute, even in a tiny way, towards a more inclusive, more equitable one world.
It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's learning something new about AI or striking up a conversation with someone different from you or just taking a moment to reflect on that shared humanity we all have.
Yeah. How can you take these big ideas and find a little bit of practical application in your own life? Something to think about.